Somebody thinks they're funny.
Someone steal your gavel?
Somebody stole the,
It's behind here. It's behind
oh,
you.
is it? Somebody left it up there? Okay, perfect. Call the meeting to order, call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Here.
Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Malani.
Here.
Trustee Compass. Trustee Reardon. Trustee Radiszewski.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the April 15th, 2024 Committee of the Whole minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole of April 15th, 2024.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
2014 Village Door Replacement Project.
Will
Mr.
somebody
Chairman.
motion it? Thank you.
I move to
Trustee Malani.
recommend to the village board to approve the use of Omnia contract number 02-91 and approve the proposal number 202-404-1700 from Midwest Mechanical for the replacement of village doors for a total amount not to exceed $321,295.80, which is $305,996 plus a contingency of $15,299.80.
Second.
Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. And
Any non-scheduled citizens and visitors
we
for
accidentally skipped non-scheduled citizens and visitors for agenda specific from the public. Is there anybody here to talk about an agenda item? I have one here for non-agenda item, but anyone here for an agenda item? Okay, great. Go ahead.
Sanitary sewer cleaning and televising, 2024 to 2026.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Radiszewski.
I move to recommend to the village board to award RFP 240042, 2024 through 2026 sanitary sewer cleaning and televising program to Sewer Tech LLC of Schaumburg, Illinois, for an amount not to exceed $145,041 plus $4,000 contingency for a total amount of $149,041 for fiscal year 2024 and an amount not to exceed the board-approved budget amount for fiscal year 2025 and 2026.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Crossroads of Orland Park mixed-use planned development.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Healy.
I move to recommend the village board approve the Plan Commission recommended action for case number 2021-0268, also known as Crossroads of Orland Park mixed-use plan development.
All right, good evening.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. And then I'll let staff go ahead and give us the update on the Crossroads.
Okay.
And is the petitioner here? I don't see them, so, okay,
Not at the moment.
they're not
but
here.
Yeah,
Okay,
they are aware of tonight's meeting, so.
okay.
Yeah, first slide. The proposed development is at the southeast corner of 159th Street and LaGrange Road. It's almost 16 acres in area. Our comprehensive plan has identified this location as regional mixed use, and it is zoned core regional planning district. Requested approvals, next slide, is a series of requested special use permits. One for the overall plan development, the master plan, if you will. Another special use permit for development with more than 50,000 square feet of building area. There's a disturbance of a non-tidal wetland, so there's a wetland kind of on the east end of the property, so that's another special use permit. Attached dwellings or multifamily units, and I'll get to that in another slide. More than 40% of the square footage of the total square footage of the mixed-use development is devoted to residential uses, so that's another special use permit request. They're proposing up to 3 restaurants with outdoor seating, and 2 of those restaurants are also they're planned for drive-through service. None of the restaurants are specifically identified at this time. So the project location, so the part where it's like near 94th Avenue, that's near where the wetland is located. I guess to further orient you, Pep Boys and Napa's at the northwest corner of outside the shaded area. The LaGrange Lazy Boy is the little, thank you. Thank you. And then a vacated KFC, and then next slide.
Can you go back to that slide for a second? Just to orient the board. Obviously LaGrange and the public, LaGrange and 159th. So the stuff along LaGrange and 159th is essentially, south of that, north of that plaza up to Pep Boys, and then around Pep Boys, and then between KFC and Pep Boys, and then behind that is the rest of the area. And then, of course, you got along 94th Avenue, which across the street is Bentonhausen, and then Walmart and Orland Hills. Along 94th Avenue, just to the north, there's a lot of multifamily homes there, and then so it's not exactly a big residential area. It's a pretty big commercial area. The other thing is I guess the question I would have, because I'm a little bit familiar with the site, what would be your kind of opinion on the difficulty of developing the site, given the wetland and all that? Just in general, I mean, it's not an easy site to develop.
It's not an easy site to develop. I mean, it's been a very long time since I think the initial lot consolidation in the late 90s. So it's been kind of a long time coming.
So 25 years it's been coming, and it's just not an easy site. So, okay, great.
Okay, so this is the zoning map. So the yellow outline matches the shape from the previous slide. Next. And there are currently cross-access easements at the southwest corner of the Pep Boys site, and then the northwest and southwest corner, essentially, of the Lazy Boy site as well. Next slide. So the proposed development includes a 107-room hotel at like the northeast corner next to the KFC. The proposed brand is Home 2 Suites, and they will also have planned EV charging stations. The 3 restaurants, the one at the northwest corner and the southwest corner, those are planned to have drive-throughs, and the proposed development is like, this is the maximum number of queuing spaces for the drive-throughs, so any potential restaurant would need to adhere to the maximum drive-through capacity as shown on this site plan. All 3 restaurants, also including the lighter brown building on the west end, like west central, I guess, they would also all have outdoor dining. So all 3 would have outdoor dining as in the current plan. The 3 apartment buildings are the 3 darker brown rectangles in the center. Each would have 44 units in each building, have indoor and outdoor amenity spaces, and there's a dog park at the south central area of the site, just south of the residential buildings. Common open spaces include pedestrian access to 94th Avenue, walking path around the wetland and pond, fitness equipment, ponds with a fountain, a scenic overlook, and native vegetation restoration, so that green area that's south of the, I guess, the L-shaped pond. Next slide. Based on the conversation at Plan Commission, it was not a unanimous approval. There was 1 dissenting vote, and the main concerns were a proposed southbound left turn into the southwest corner of the site. So basically taking up the landscape median and adding a left turn lane. And then the other concern was just the amount of parking. It was very close to the required number of spaces, but it was just a little bit under, and there was concern that it wasn't 100% parking. So those were the two main concerns during the conversation. IDOT has since opined on the development and has declined the request for that southbound LaGrange Road left turn onto the site. So basically having right in, right out, and left in movements at that southwest driveway. In response to IDOT's review, the plans have been revised to remove that left turn lane and now is proposing a northbound right turn lane, kind of like a deceleration lane. Maybe go back one or, so just off the screen where the southwest restaurant just south of that driveway would be a right turn deceleration lane as proposed.
So kind of over by the Lazy Boy, right?
Yeah, so south of the Lazy Boy.
Yep, okay.
Thank you. And IDOT also raised concerns regarding the access between Restaurant B, which is that middle one that doesn't have the drive-through, and Lazy Boy, but the site plan has been revised to address IDOT's concerns. And staff suggests plans are in substantial conformance with the Plan Commission approved plan. Next slide. So the adjustments that were made since the Plan Commission reviewed the site plan will start at the top. So an additional cross-access has been proposed for better traffic flow, an increase in the residential and restaurant parking. These adjustments do increase the parking by 16 parking spaces over what the Plan Commission reviewed back in February. I guess the next green rectangle down would be to provide a two-way traffic in front of Lot 1 and access to the Lazy Boy store. The Plan Commission reviewed one-way southbound. So this is what's proposed as part of providing the deceleration lane, which is the third or the bottom green space or green rectangle. So revising the northbound right turn deceleration lane. Should IDOT not support that right turn deceleration option, engineering staff would want to revert the middle green shape to the one-way southbound as presented at the Plan Commission. So reverting to what the Plan Commission reviewed back in February. Next slide. And these are some of the off-street parking counts showing the increase in parking. Restaurant C and Restaurant B, they both increased a total of 8 parking spaces, 6 parking spaces, and then Lot 5 residential increased by 10 parking spaces with the revisions as presented tonight. And the 3 apartment buildings each have 44 units per building. And if the development is solely residential, the core district does allow for 15 acres of purely residential multifamily with a floor area ratio of up to 1, like a 1-to-1 ratio of the lot area to building area.
So what you're saying there is with core zoning, they could do 100% residential.
Yeah, if they want 100% residential, depending
There's other
on,
things they would need to do, but
yeah,
in
yeah,
theory.
there would be more residential units than there are now.
There would be more residential than there is now.
Yes.
Yes.
And since the proposed development is mixed use, no greater than 40% of the floor area can be dedicated to residential without the special use permit. So that's why that's one of the 10 special use permits before you tonight. The special use permit requested grants an increase in residential floor area on the site with the investment benefit of a hotel, 3 restaurants, and public amenity spaces within the area. Do you have anything to add? If you have any questions?
I'll open it up to the board.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Malani?
Got a couple questions. The connector to Pep Boys then, next to Restaurant B, there's like kind of like a little J-shaped. Did I read correctly that that is not going to be connected? Or is that still-
Restaurant B, that will be connected.
It will be connected?
Yes.
Okay, because it would make sense to not stub that in. Okay, so we did change that, because I thought I read originally that it wasn't going to go in.
Yeah, there used to be a cross-access at the northeast corner of Pep Boys. Or actually, it's probably technically there, but in planning out this site, there was enough conflict between a deceleration lane heading eastbound on 159th Street, and then also the drive-through operations between those two. We felt that the southwestern cross-access easement was the more critical and less, had fewer conflicts. So there is cross-access, we're just not exercising the connection at the northeast corner of the Pep Boys Napa site.
I guess that,
Okay, so
At the northeast corner.
that one right there, exactly.
The rationale is because it's a restaurant with a drive-through and there's a lot of traffic and there's a lot of
Exactly.
conflict.
yeah, that one I understand, but the one on the southwest, that one will be connected.
That one's still there,
And
yep.
that will allow flow, and then there will be flow from Restaurant B across the front of Pep Boys then. That'll all be in there. Okay. That's question number one. The wetland mitigation, the pond, does that meet all of our requirements for mitigating a wetland?
It will, yes.
Okay.
We're depending on engineering for,
Okay, and then
That one.
I guess the third thing is the question of apartments, once again. Our, kind of direction and goals has to been home ownership, owner occupied, and here we are talking about 144 apartments. Raises some concerns to me because these are also 5-story buildings. How is the landscaping going to look? Are these going to kind of be out of sight from driving up and down 159th and up and down LaGrange, or are these going to be clearly visible? I mean, they're nice looking buildings, don't get me wrong, but it's like, do we want 5-story buildings? I guess.
I believe there'll be some visibility. It's not maybe as visible as if it was out at LaGrange Road or out at 159th. The residential to the southeast of this development are also of, 5-story with the first floor parking as well. So as far as like the size of the building, it actually matches neighboring buildings.
The
Yeah.
home twos, they usually are pretty high as well. Yeah, I've seen their, footprint in other areas. So it's a nice hotel, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, that's a lot for frontage. I mean, look what we have with like University of Chicago, right? It's just like pushed up against the wall, here's a 5-story building.
And across the street, just down the street, you got Giorgio's, which is, I think, big, is at least that big. And then you, like, the apartments to the south, to the southeast are just as big. So it's going to be a lot more broken up than 10 feet off of 143rd Street.
Yeah, so it'll kind of fit in its footprint, then it's not going to be kind of like an eyesore, I guess is what but then back to the apartments, if our direction goal is to home ownership, if there was a way we could rectify that, I mean, I doubt that's in our cards here. But, maybe we've also talked about the idea of building the commercial side of this first. If that could be an option, because, there's always the possibility that somebody builds apartments and then maybe we never finish the development. So it's just kind of a concern. I just thought I'd kind of throw my thoughts out there at this point. I know we're looking at the site, but these are things that are on my mind as I looked at this, so, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy?
I've got a question about the parking, and that doesn't seem to be any covered parking or indoor parking. Am I wrong about that?
There is some parking on the first floor, but there's also surface parking on the outside.
And that would be for the apartment buildings? The covered parking is for the,
Covered parking would be for the apartment buildings, but the rest of the surface parking would technically be shared, but
okay.
meeting the parking requirements would also include surface parking.
I share Trustee Malani's thoughts about, not enthused about the renting. This community has been proud of its home ownership levels for many years, and it shows a commitment to the, long-term commitment to the community and a certain sense of responsibility. There's nothing wrong with that. But it also, you know, looking at the renditions, and they look good, but so did that 9750. They were billed as luxury condos with a lot of commercial to follow. Well, the the buildings were built, they turned into rentals and no commercial. So it's, I wish they would have built a commercial first there, but even then, I'm just not sure of our appetite for rental units. Thanks.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Katsinas?
I too share a concern with the number of rentals. We have a couple of mega complexes in the village, you know, that for people that are looking to rent, Orland Park certainly has many options. And to Trustee Milani's point about being, you know, our score is so high with home ownership, that is kind of concerning. I wish they were condos. It would make it a lot easier, because that's an ownership issue. Also, with our moratorium on rentals, I'd like to ask George, how does this play into our moratorium?
The moratorium does have an exception for approved apartment buildings. So if the board approves an apartment complex during the moratorium, then it's exempt from the moratorium.
Okay, but if we come back with any ordinances regarding rentals, would they still have to comply? Or because they were approved before, that they wouldn't have to comply? If we,
I'm going to ask Ann, because that's a legal question, but I would assume it's the latter.
Well, it depends on what ordinance is drafted. So, right now, they're not affected by the rental moratorium that is in place. And if we consider any ordinances regarding rental restrictions, density, or anything else, it would be crafted to either exempt or apply to anything that was already in the pipeline. You'd have to carefully consider anything that applied to something that had previously been approved by the board, though.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Radiszewski?
I guess I'll chime in here too. I agree with the other trustees are saying. I am a little confused with the getting in and out of this space. You have a hotel, you have all this residential, 144 units. I mean, it just seems a lot. And then plus the restaurants and drive-throughs, it just seems like it's going to be a lot of traffic. And so that's a concern for me, number one. Two, I also agree with, you know, 9750 and, one being built before the other and that promise. I'd like to see, the retail space built, if anything, before the apartment. Just my 2 cents.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani?
question for George. How much longer do we have on the moratorium?
I think it goes through September. The board can always expand it if it so chooses, but staff has made a lot of very good progress on the research that the board directed, and I think we're going to be coming back with a solution prior to the end of the moratorium.
And, we haven't brought it in front of the whole board, but I've seen the work that's been done. It's actually they've found some pretty good stuff, so I think the board's going to be pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
So I'm not going to tie us to a timeline, but I think it's coming along pretty quickly, probably quicker than we may have thought it would come along.
Yep.
So,
No, I guess my question is, there's a bunch of unknowns, right? We don't know what other ordinance changes might come about, and it's like looking at this project, we might be putting some pressures on them based on what we approve, right? So is this something maybe we even, you hate to put don't want to put a project on hold, but is this something maybe we come back to in September once the moratorium is lifted and our ordinances are in place?
Well, it's definitely a prerogative for the board to do something like that. The moratorium is going to focus, or any future changes will focus on primarily attached and detached single-family homes. There will be an element for condominiums as well. The apartment complexes, when they're approved as apartments, probably won't be touched as much by the moratorium.
Okay, so there may be few, if any, changes regarding this particular.
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate any here because these are apartments as approved. The other thing that should be important that the board should note, or that I will point out to the board tonight, is that what you're approving tonight is you're approving the site plan.
Right.
You are not approving the development agreement. As you saw in what the Planning Commission recommended, is they recommended that one apartment for each commercial building would be built, so that to address the commercial issue. The board, the board can certainly give direction on that as well, but what we're really doing tonight is approving the actual plan itself. So just so you're aware.
Sure.
Are there any other comments?
In case you have any questions for the developer.
Does anybody have any questions for the petitioner or any other comments before I make my comments? Okay. So unlike 9750, Bill, so 9750, I remember it was always apartments, was my recollection. I didn't remember, but maybe they said condos at first, but I always remember them saying apartments. And the issue there is retail on the bottom and no other retail in that corridor at all. So that's the issue there. So I think this is a little bit different in that these are, it's a hotel, which we consider commercial, and it's three restaurants. It's not underneath the buildings. I think if it was underneath the buildings, we could pretty much assume they'll never be occupied. But this would be a little bit different. And obviously, those are pretty attractive places. The other thing, obviously, is that unlike some other sites, there's a Pep Boys, there's a Lazy Boy, there's a KFC. There's already buildings there, so you don't have this giant void and where it's just apartment buildings and there's no other commercial already built, like Orland Ridge, for example. Now it looks a lot different now that you've got Silver Cross, right? Because there's actually something there. So that's a little different. Also regarding the density, it's 132 units. Keep in mind, 9750 is 295. So that kind of gives you some perspective. It's less than half of that on a site that's way, way bigger. I mean, this site is how big in total? 16 acres, 9750, that whole site's 11 acres, and 9750 sits on about 2. So it's a little bit different in that regard. And I understand and fully agree, and you've heard me say it a bazillion times, we're not a big fan of apartments, and we staff, we get petitions all the time that don't ever even get past the word go, because we say no all the time. I mean, if we wanted to fill up Orland Park with apartments, we could have done so already. Not something we want to do. However, with that said, this is a tough site. Is there anybody here that would ever buy a single-family home in there? No. You would not be able to do that, sell that, whatever. So that's not a place where you're ever going to really see that. So it's kind of one of those places, as we've talked about, at least in my opinion. There's a few places that you can do apartments in town that they actually make sense because nothing else is ever really going to go there. You're not going to build commercial back behind Pep Boys. So getting commercial along the 2 main streets with apartments in the back is probably as good as we're going to get because it is a tough site. So that's kind of my perspective on that. But I share the concerns about I don't want to see built and not see the commercial. So that's obviously a concern as well. So, but like I said, for tonight, we're just voting on approving the plan itself. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Non-scheduled citizen visitors for public comment on items relevant to village business.
Carrie Passir. And a reminder that you have 3 minutes to speak, and the floor is yours, and please use the microphone. And we have all your information, so you don't need to repeat that.
Thank you. I've been trying to contact Chief Rossi. I've emailed him a lot, and I'm sorry if I bugged you. I have a stalking neighbor, going on since 2018. His mom was a crossing guard for you guys, Patricia Kuzmal. They stole an iPhone out of my house 4 or 5 years ago. Her son he thinks he's an IT tech. He's connected to every device I own. He's hacked my bank account. He's hacked PayPal. I have 40 police reports, and I know they're sick of me. He still connects to my car. He harasses me when I'm driving. I don't know how to fix the situation. Like I said, I've contacted the police numerous times, and I know I don't want to be annoying with them anymore, but I don't have any more resources. I've lived in Orland my whole life. My dad lives 3 blocks away. He's an Army veteran of 33 years. I go to his house, and the guy connects to my dad's Bluetooth speaker outside. Like, we can't even eat dinner. And the guy he's harassing me because he was a renter in my condo building. He lived under me, and he got kicked out for whatever reason. And I just didn't give him the time of day. I work at 5 in the morning. And I want to go home. I don't want to be bothered. He didn't like that. He broke into my house and stole this iPhone. It's going on 5 years of stalking. I just don't know what else to do. I found cameras under my bathroom. Officer Dybolski was out in January. He saw the devices. He said, "We can't reach them. What do you want me to do?" And he left my condo. And this guy harasses me off these things every day. I have him recorded. I have him recorded off the neighbor's camera across the street. I'm just really stuck. He's breaking restraining orders. And every time I call the police, they're sick of me. So they're just like, "Do you want us to write another report?" But they're not getting me anywhere. So I figured I would come and talk to you guys and see if you had any suggestions or...
Okay, well, thank you for your comments. This board doesn't, we're not involved with the law enforcement aspect of the village. We're not involved with the courts or any of that kind of stuff, but Chief Rossi's here tonight, so he'll talk with you and let's see what he can do. But, basically, we don't get involved in any
Right.
police investigations or anything like that, because it'd be inappropriate for us to do that. We're not court, we don't have any authorities in the court or as police officers or any of that, so that's our departments. And they're pretty good at what they do, so, Chief, and we have a few officers here tonight too, so they'll make sure to talk to you.
Okay.
That's the best we can,
I
that's the
know,
best we can
And I'm
do.
sorry, I'm just stuck.
That's okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else here to speak?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani,
move to adjourn?
Second.
call the roll.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pika.
Aye. We're adjourned. See you in 25.